children are going to be taught. How many of you believe in the good Lord? Not afraid to raise your hand. Under the treaty, children must be taught religion the way the UN wants them to be taught religion. And the American Bar Association, looking at these provisions, the largest association of lawyers in the country, has stated that if you tell your child that Jesus is the only way to heaven, that you are subject to violations of the treaty. There are folks that have tried to, in other countries, that have tried to pull their children. They've tried to opt out of mandatory sex education. Actions have been brought against the parents because they wanted their children to opt out of this government sex education. Now, don't you notice, don't you see, isn't this kind of interesting? This right of a child is only enforced by the government when the parent acts in a way that's different than the government wants their agenda to be put forward. I didn't notice any place anywhere in the world, not one single incident, where a child was attending a sex education class and got to challenge that attendance based on the UN treaty. Well, why not? Because, well, the UN wanted them there. Now, I don't know if this was pursuant to the treaty or German law, but and I don't know how many of you homeschool. But it's going to radically change homeschool. In Germany recently, and I want to be careful because I don't think this is a fold-up podium here, but that's the sound that German parents heard on their door one night. They opened the door. The German authorities said, "We know you're not abusing your child. We're not here about any allegations of abuse. We know there is no abuse. We are here, however, to remove your children from your custody, and we are no longer going to allow you to raise your child." Why? What was the government interest put forward by the government? The parents were Christian who wanted to raise their children based on Christian principles in their home. And so that was enough for the German authorities to remove the children from the custody of them.
What year was that?
This year or maybe the end of last year. Sweden just, I think, a month within the much more recent, Sweden just outlawed homeschool. Well, the U.S., and we have, HSLDA and a number of other good organizations have worked with them, got them to the U.S., and a federal judge, and I don't know what the current status is, but a federal judge found, gave them asylum based on religious persecution, which is, amazing when you think this is a constitutional republic. Could that happen here? Absolutely. Once we sign a treaty, and here's another reason why we haven't signed it. I mean, we've signed it, but why the Senate hasn't ratified it. Once that treaty is ratified, it becomes under our Constitution what is known as the supreme law of the land. Under the Supremacy Clause, the Constitution acts by Congress, and treaties entered into by the United States are considered the supreme law of the land. Every one of your protections, every one of your legal protections as a parent is out the window. Why? Because they are all written by the state at the state level under state law. And so now, as a treaty signatory, our federal government would be obligated to implement that treaty, which would mean that immediately all state law governing family relationships, governing your right to control and direct the upbringing of your child, any homeschooling protections, which were vigorously fought for in all 50 states, out the window, gone. Folks, we're living in a surreal world. There will be, I can give you an example, Scotland they are handing out brochures to the children that basically tell them, well, yeah, normally your parents make decisions for you, but only if it's in your best interest. In other words, you want to disagree, it's okay, and we got the government to help you. Now, the way it's always worked in this nation before is as long as a parent was fulfilling their responsibility, as long as you weren't beating a child, raping a child, or doing something horrible where you've abdicated your responsibility. And we all in this room can agree when that happens, yeah, the state has a right to protect its citizens. And under that standard, once the government has come forth with proof, and a lot of proof, to show that those very bad things were happening, yes, then the government has the right to make decisions in the best interest of the child. What this treaty does, folks, it puts you in the same status as a child rapist or somebody who's beat a child, and now you have to provide, and now the government's going to decide what's in the best interest of the child anytime there's any disagreement within your house. Let me give you an example how that can work. Someone please keep track of my time for me too, so I don't go over. I've got some lawyer friends that had a case out in Washington, I think it was, where Washington had passed some statute talking about a standard that would be a very similar standard called the best interest of the child. The child didn't want to go to Sunday school more than once a day. And I think the family was Baptist, and I think they had a situation where maybe they went to Sunday school more than once on Sunday morning. Some teacher or counselor got wind of it, all of a sudden it's in a courtroom, and the judge says, you know what, I think the kid shouldn't have to go to Sunday school more than once a day. And parents, you want the child back in your house tonight instead of being a ward of the state, you better do what I tell you. That's going to be the world that we live in if this treaty becomes the law. What can we do to stop it?